Okay, let's go. April 1909, an ordinary morning in Arizona. People open their newspapers, get ready for their daily routines, but one sentence they read that day freezes them at the table. An explorer writes that inside the walls of the Grand Canyon, in a place no one could reach, visible only by boat from the middle of the river, he has found a hidden cave. Inside, mummies sit upright. Corridors longer than 1,000 feet stretch out. On the walls are inscriptions no scholar could read. Then this news simply vanishes, as if it had never been written at all. Now the real mystery begins. Long before this newspaper story, for thousands of years, the Hopi people had been talking about hidden beings living beneath this very canyon. Tall, hairy beings living deep within the earth. Is this a coincidence? Or had the 1909 newspaper stumbled onto the trail of a story told thousands of years earlier? For over 100 years, there has been no answer to this question. But by the end of this video, you will decide for yourself. Because today, I'll show you three things: the historical records, the Hopi tradition, and those strange days of 1909. And at the end, an answer as deep as the canyon itself. Let's begin. The memory beneath the earth. To understand this story, we first have to go back further than the mapmakers, further than the archaeologists, even further than the state of Arizona itself. For the Hopi people, the world did not begin the way we see it today. According to their oldest traditions, humanity lived in other worlds before this one. Each time, those worlds were destroyed by great catastrophe, and the survivors passed into a new world. The place where this passage took place is called Sipapu, a sacred opening. And pause here for a second, because this is not some mythical dome in the sky. It is remembered as a real place, tied to the concrete geography of northern Arizona. But here's the real mystery. The Hopi's Bear Clan has preserved something across generations, that before the ancestors ever emerged onto the Earth's surface, other beings were already living beneath the ground. They are called the Ant People. Yes, the name sounds a bit funny. You might think we're talking about tiny insects. But no. They are described as beings who lived underground, intelligent, protectors of the ancestors, offering them shelter in times of catastrophe. Their name may be amusing, but the memory of them is serious. The descriptions vary. Some remember them as taller than an ordinary person, others recall bodies covered in hair. But on one point, they all agree. They lived beneath the canyon. This story was carried on by word of mouth for hundreds of years, needing no newspaper, no archaeologist. Then, in the spring of 1909, a newspaper appeared and published a story that sounded strangely familiar. Remember this sentence because we'll return to it a few times throughout today. The canyon stays silent, but history speaks. The sensation of April 5th, 1909. The Arizona Gazette publishes a story that will become one of the most controversial ever connected to the Grand Canyon. According to the article, an explorer named G.E. Kincaid, who presented himself as part of a government-sponsored expedition connected to the Smithsonian Institution, claims to have found a hidden cave in the sheer walls of the Grand Canyon, reachable only by boat along the Colorado River. But it's not the location that will astonish you, it's what's said to be inside. Inside the cave was a central passage stretching more than 1,000 feet, with dozens of rooms branching off it. Some rooms still held preserved grain, others pottery, copper tools, weapons. Then the story gets even stranger. Kincaid writes that he found mummies, seated upright, carefully wrapped. The walls were covered with inscriptions no one could read. Even some of the statues' style resembled Egypt or Asia more than North America. Think for a second. In 1909, with no internet, no social media, this news spread across the entire country through newspapers alone. If this happened today, it would trend overnight. 4 days later, on April 9th, the newspaper publishes a second article with even more detail. To readers of that era, this looked not like fiction, but like the announcement of a discovery that would rewrite the history of the American Southwest. Then something strange happens. The story suddenly stops. No photograph, no artifact, no scientific report. The expedition that supposedly made this great discovery vanishes just as suddenly as it appeared. And that disappearance becomes just as mysterious as the cave itself. If you love this kind of mystery, stay until the end of this video. because the strangest part is still ahead. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because I keep investigating stories like this. Why are there no traces? The question is simple. If this expedition really happened, where are the records? For years, researchers have searched the Smithsonian's archives. The result? The Smithsonian Institution has officially stated that it has no record of an employee named G.E. Kincaid, no record of an archaeologist named Professor S.A. Jordan, and no record of any artifacts matching those described in the newspaper. For many historians, that's enough to close the case, just a fabricated newspaper story. But don't rush to conclusions, because one thing is certain. The newspaper itself is real. The April 5th and April 9th issues genuinely exist. Researchers have confirmed this. The question was never, did the newspaper write this? The question was, did what was written actually happen? Do you feel the difference? Interestingly, just 3 years before this story, in 1906, the Antiquities Act had come into force, a law giving the federal government authority over major archaeological discoveries on federal land. The Grand Canyon was already under federal protection, so if such a discovery had been made, it would have fallen under federal oversight. This, in the context of the time, makes the newspaper's reference to the Smithsonian seem more plausible, even though it doesn't prove the event actually occurred. In later years, some researchers reported finding the name G.E. Kincaid scattered in archival records, suggesting a person by that name may have existed. But this alone proves nothing. Gaps in archives are common: miscataloguing, lost documents, the erosion of time. So to this day, the story remains suspended between two possibilities. Either the Arizona Gazette created one of the most elaborate archaeological hoaxes of its era, or it was reporting on a real expedition whose full record has never been recovered. The canyon stays silent, but history speaks. And it is exactly here that the 1909 newspaper story and the Hopi tradition, which existed thousands of years earlier, draw remarkably close to one another. Two different sources, the same place. On one side, a newspaper story published in 1909, hidden corridors inside the canyon, mummies, unknown inscriptions. On the other side, a memory the Hopi carried by word of mouth for thousands of years. Beings living beneath the canyon, tall, hairy, called the Ant People. It's impossible to prove these are the same, but ask yourself, could two completely different sources, one a newspaper, the other a 1,000-year-old oral tradition, coincidentally point to the same place? There's a fact that makes this even more complex. The Grand Canyon is not a single open valley. Especially within the layer known as Red Wall limestone, there are extensive natural cave systems. Many of these caves remain difficult to reach even today, and some parts have still never been fully explored. Perhaps that's exactly why this story has survived for over 100 years. Not because someone proved something true, but because someone was never able to fully close the question. The word of the Hopi. For over 100 years, books have been written about the Grand Canyon. Millions of people have stood at its rim and looked down. Geologists have studied its layers, archaeologists have documented its villages and trails. But the story of 1909 has never completely disappeared, because the question has never been answered to anyone's satisfaction. If the expedition was real, where are the photographs, the records, the recovered items? If it was a fabrication, why was it written with such detail? The dimensions of the rooms, the description of the objects, the names of hard-to-reach places. In the year 2000, the Hopi Cultural Preservation Office issued a statement regarding sacred places within the canyon. This statement neither confirms the expedition nor validates every claim. It asks for just one thing: respect. And that really is the whole story. We have three different kinds of evidence: a newspaper article, scientific knowledge about the canyon, and an oral tradition preserved across generations. Each tells part of the story. None of them closes the question on its own. Maybe one day, laser technology, improved cave mapping, new research will solve this mystery. Or maybe the answer was never inside the canyon at all. Maybe the answer is hidden in the stories of the people who knew this land long before newspapers, government expeditions, or national parks. The Hopi have never claimed to have every answer. What they have preserved is a memory. The memory of emerging from beneath the earth. The memory of underground chambers. The memory of strange beings who were already there before the ancestors ever set foot in this world. Whether this is literal history, sacred tradition, or a mix of both, each generation debates this for itself. But one thing is not up for debate. These traditions have outlived the newspaper. They have outlived the state of Arizona itself. And they have far outlived that strange expedition of 1909. The canyon stays silent, but history speaks, and perhaps for the Hopi, history has never gone silent at all. Maybe this is exactly why the Grand Canyon captivates us so much. Not because every mystery gets solved, but because every generation looks at the same rocks and asks the same question: what truly is hidden beneath them? Now it's your turn. What do you think? Is it pure coincidence that the Hopi traditions and the 1909 newspaper story line up? Or are they different memories of the same place? Write to me in the comments below. Which side are you on? If you found this investigation interesting, subscribe to the channel because I keep digging into stories like this that history has kept hidden. See you in the next video.